Well, many people are looking at what happened and saying, this is the continuation of a mission started by George W. Bush. President Bush, one of the first people called when this happened, before President Obama announced to the country. But some say this is not only the continuation of a mission, but evidence that the Obama administration and the Bush administrations are not as different as many may think. I want to go now to Jeremy Scahill. He blogs at thenation.com and also wrote this book, Blackwater, The Rise of the World's Most Powerful Mercenary Army. Hey there, Jeremy.
Nice to be with you.
Now that we've had some time to digest what's happened, many pundits and so-called experts are starting to talk about what it means. Osama bin Laden, of course, used as an excuse, at least a symbol for the involvement of the war in Afghanistan. Now that he's gone, what changes?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to remember that 9/11 was used to justify the invasion and occupation of Iraq, a country that had nothing to do with al-Qaeda, nothing to do with Osama bin Laden, and nothing to do with 9/11. And the billions upon billions of dollars that were spent on that war, the American lives, military and civilian, that were lost in that war, and the hundreds of thousands of Iraqi civilians that died should also be remembered this week as people declare a sort of end to an era or say that they're getting closure. The vast majority of the victims in the post-9/11 world have been Iraqi civilians, so that's important that we remember that. Number two, I think that while you can certainly say that this is a great symbolic victory for the Obama administration to have taken down Osama bin Laden, it doesn't mean that the issues that were raised by the U.S. policies of the last 10 years go away. If anything, what we've seen is the Obama administration double down on some of the most offensive policies of the Bush administration, targeted assassinations in particular, but also viewing the world as a battlefield where U.S. forces are allowed to strike at will. So I think we have to have a very sober discussion of what this means for U.S. policy going forward and what it means for the rest of the world that's going to be dealing with it.
There are certainly some people who say, Osama bin Laden may be dead, but he takes with him the satisfaction of knowing some of the changes his decisions made on this country are permanent. And I'm not just talking about the victims who were lost, but also the civil liberties that were lost as well. What do you think about this notion that, bin Laden dies in some ways a winner?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure Osama bin Laden died as a terrified man from the sounds of the description of how his house was raided in the literal sense, and it sounds like he died in a sort of cowardly way by throwing a woman in front of him, if we're to believe U.S. officials in that description. But to your bigger point, there's a way in which Osama bin Laden did win, because in fact someone had a Twitter account, Osama in Hell, that they started, and it said, "I've taken your civil liberties with me." The United States spent over $1 trillion on these wars, invaded a country that had nothing to do with 9/11 or bin Laden, and in fact was an enemy of bin Laden, Saddam Hussein, and in doing so created or inspired a whole new generation of people to rise up against the United States that probably wouldn't have been inclined to do so otherwise. So in that sense, I mean, I don't know that victory is the right word, but in that sense, Osama bin Laden's agenda of trying to chisel away at U.S. power in the world certainly was successful and may be successful for the foreseeable future. So, yeah, I mean, yes, I would agree with the sentiment. I don't know that victory is the right word, but certainly his agenda is alive and well in several aspects of U.S. society, unfortunately.
And I think a lot of U.S. officials are also being really careful. We heard from Secretary of State Hillary Clinton this morning, who said, yes, this is reason to be happy. However, we need to, take a look at what's next, and we need to be vigilant. I want to play a little bit of what she said, and then I'll get your reaction.
Continued cooperation will be just as important in the days ahead, because even as we mark this milestone, we should not forget that the battle to stop al-Qaeda and its syndicate of terror will not end with the death of bin Laden. Indeed, we must take this opportunity to renew our resolve and redouble our efforts.
So redouble our efforts. It sounds like this is maybe even an excuse to go ahead with some of the missions that have been going on for so many years.
Well, let's look at what's happened since President Obama took office 2 2 years ago or so. He has radically expanded the use of U.S. Special Operations forces around the globe, including those from the Joint Special Operations Command, the team that we understand killed Osama bin Laden. One of the primary battlefronts of this Special Operations war has been Yemen, where the United States has used Tomahawk cruise missiles to bomb on multiple occasions and has used the Yemeni government to cover up or try to cover up the U.S. role. U.S. Special Ops teams have been engaged in targeted killing operations in Yemen. A U.S. citizen, Anwar al-Awlaki, is on a JSOC targeted assassination list. The Obama administration has also bombed inside of Somalia. You have the drone war that's raging in Pakistan, and you have a dramatic increase in Special Operations Forces targeted killings in Afghanistan, particularly under General David Petraeus, who's set to take over as the director of the Central Intelligence Agency. So what we've really seen from the Obama administration, and to respond to what Secretary Clinton is saying, is a doubling down on these Bush-era policies of targeted assassination becoming just a norm in how the U.S. conducts business. So far from being over, either from the al-Qaeda side of things, because we see these disparate small groups still thriving in small ways in their countries, on the one hand, and then the U.S., on the other hand, engaged in this special operations form of attrition warfare where we believe we can kill our way out of the problem. That was a big part of the problem with the Bush-era strategy, so I'm very concerned about what comes next. I don't see the Obama administration saying, let's take this as an opportunity to scale back some of this. It really does seem like they're going to continue with this targeted assassination policy, believing they can kill their way out of our problems, and we just can't do that.
I was going to ask you that, Jeremy. I mean, I'd love to get your take, because I know you've covered JSOC for quite some time. I mean, on one hand, it seems like these are the best of the best. I mean, like the Olympic team, I guess you could say, within the U.S. military. We heard about them, these Navy SEALs, I think, during that dangerous, almost unbelievable mission with the pirates in Somalia. And here again, they've accomplished these extremely complex, highly dangerous missions, the one that we're talking about that just happened yesterday. I guess talk about their role in the future of U.S. military operations.
Well, these are the people that are on the very tip of the spear of the U.S. war machine. They are a surgical strike force. They are not meant to be used to invade countries, occupy countries. In fact, a former Special Forces colonel with extensive operational experience in the Muslim world told me that they're like Murder Incorporated, and that they're not interested in converting anyone to our agenda. Their job is to kill al-Qaeda terrorists. And we've seen them time and again used in what many special ops guys I know consider to be inappropriate ways, particularly in Iraq, but also in Afghanistan right now, where they don't see themselves as fighting actual important enemies, but rather Afghans who have sided with the Taliban for whatever reason, or that actually have nothing to do with the Taliban, and you find you've killed the wrong people. So we've seen a misuse of these forces that were really supposed to be used only in circumstances like the takedown of Osama bin Laden being used in a far more widespread way. I will say that contrary to what a lot of people on the right may believe, President Obama is very, very close and very respected within that community, and he's very close to Admiral William McRaven, the current head of JSOC. So if anything, this relationship between President Obama and JSOC it gives lie to this perception that Obama is some kind of clueless dove floating around unicorn land. He's doing what President Bush said he was going to do in a more effective way, and I think you can make a credible case that that's 100% true.
And finally, Jeremy, I want to talk a little bit about this mission itself, about how this happened, where it happened. Reports show that this was close to a Pakistani military academy. Of course, this is different to confirm. Pakistan is not a place where there are a lot of, U.S. journalists on the ground. But there are a lot of, it seems, questions that are still not answered about the specifics of this. Anything that, you thought when you first heard about it, that some dots that didn't necessarily connect right away?
Well, the fact that apparently, Osama bin Laden lived next door to a Pakistani military facility, a training facility, really should just jump out at people here. I mean, the looming question that needs to be answered here is, did the Pakistanis know that Osama bin Laden was there? And if they didn't, how on earth didn't they know? If he was able to make it all the way from Tora Bora to this town that is sort of like Vail, Colorado. It's a popular vacation place, and also is a heavy military town. If they didn't know it, that says something about Pakistan's intelligence. I find it almost impossible to believe that the Pakistanis, or some elements of Pakistan intelligence community, didn't know that he was there. Remember also Raymond Davis, the CIA Special Forces guy that the U.S. had in Pakistan earlier this year and killed 2 Pakistanis in Lahore. That was a huge diplomatic crisis between the U.S. and Pakistan. So there's a lot of unresolved questions here. You have the U.S. waging a covert war there. You have the Pakistanis who long have been double dealing with al-Qaeda, the Taliban, the United States. That's the crucial question that needs to be asked, because General Petraeus does not have a good relationship with the Pakistanis. He's going to be heading the CIA. This is really the wild card to watch.
A lot of unanswered questions, Jeremy, and it's hard to know how or when we'll get those answers. Jeremy Scahill, author of Blackwater, The Rise of the World's Most Powerful Mercenary Army, joining us from our New York studio.